Welcome to my channel. Try to hear the latest story.
My 13-year-old niece laughed, her voice sharp as she said, "Mom claims if you vanish tomorrow, nobody would care," while unwrapping the $850 phone I'd gifted her. The room, filled with 30 family members, erupted in laughter. Everyone but me. I gave a slight nod, and with a few swipes on my phone, I canceled every payment, subscription, and financial support I'd been providing. Gone. That night, I left, cut all ties, and disappeared, leaving only a black duffel bag behind. Inside it, they'd find... Mom claims if you vanish tomorrow, nobody would care. My niece's giggle cut through the air as she tore the plastic off the $850 phone I'd bought her. Her fingers moved delicately, but her words stung like a blade. The living room buzzed with the voices of my family, 30 people, their chatter loud and thoughtless. A birthday cake sat untouched on the kitchen counter, candles unlit, but a fire was already burning inside me. My sister, Lindsay, didn't glance up. She lounged on the sofa, scrolling her phone, her lips curling into a smug grin, as if she just won a silent argument. Mom was in the kitchen, stirring a pot, acting oblivious, but I caught the slight tilt of her head, a quiet endorsement. Dad? He didn't bother hiding his amusement. He chuckled, raised his glass, and muttered, "Well, she's got a point." Laughter spread like wildfire. My cousins smirked, and even Uncle Greg, who barely knew me beyond holiday dinners, snorted into his drink. I stood there, frozen, feeling like an idiot, like the idiot I'd always been. The one who paid their bills, the one who fixed their messes, the one who was never enough. "Thanks for the phone, Uncle," my niece chirped, already nestled against her mother, her eyes glued to the glowing screen. I watched her, my pulse pounding, my face burning, the room closing in around me. It felt like I was choking. But I stayed silent. I just nodded, like always. Nodding, smiling, pretending. Always pretending. Lindsay finally looked up, her eyes locking onto mine, and in that moment, I saw it. A glint of triumph, of satisfaction, like she'd been waiting for me to stand there, mute, humiliated. "All right, everyone, time for cake." Mom's voice cut through, bright and breezy, brushing aside the tension. But the bitterness lingered in my mouth, heavy and sour. I drifted to the kitchen, leaning against the counter as they gathered around the table. Candles flickered, wishes were whispered, and I stood there, hands balled into fists, jaw tight. Beneath the pain, something colder took root. I felt my phone in my pocket, a few quick swipes, and every bill, every subscription, every financial lifeline I'd provided for Lindsay, for Mom, for Dad. It was all gone. My fingers moved on instinct, a choice I didn't realize I'd made until it was done. Erased. Just like that. Their voices faded into a distant murmur. The room tilted, filled with familiar faces that suddenly felt alien. They laughed, they sang, they celebrated, and I was invisible, a ghost with a credit card. But no longer. I slipped out without a word. No one noticed. Of course they didn't. My niece's words were the one truth they'd spoken all night. I didn't go home. I went to my apartment, packed a few essentials into a small bag, and then paused. The black duffel bag sat in the corner of my closet, nearly forgotten. Tonight, it had a purpose. I filled it, not with my belongings, but with something else. Something they wouldn't expect. I returned to the house. The noise was still chaotic. No one saw me slip in, place the duffel by the staircase, and leave. Then I was gone. Truly gone. By the time they realized, I'd be a memory. But inside that duffel, let them open it. Let them try to make sense of it. The quiet didn't last. I expected outrage, panic. But what came was chaos. The next morning, my apartment door rattled under heavy knocks. No calls, no courtesy, just fists pounding the wood. "Open the door. You think you can just walk away?" Dad's voice, raw with fury. I stayed silent, watching the door tremble like it might break. "I know you're in there. You think you're clever? You think you're above us?" His voice wavered, not just with anger, but with something else. Fear. I didn't respond. I wasn't playing their game. The knocking stopped. I heard his heavy steps fade, a muttered curse, the slam of a car door. But it wasn't over. Not even close. 20 minutes later, my phone lit up. A text from Mom, one line. "How could you abandon your own family?" I didn't answer. An hour later, Lindsay called. I watched her name flash on the screen and let it ring. Then again, and again. 6 times. Finally, a text. "You think you're so smart? You think we can't survive without you? Fine. See how long you last without us." I read it and smirked. Was that meant to scare me? Or tempt me? The real storm hit that evening. I was stepping out of the shower when I heard a key in the lock. I froze. No one had a key to my place. No one except... The door flew open. Dad stormed. In, face red, sweat dripping, Mom trailing behind, her eyes wide and frantic. "You think you can shut me out?" Dad roared. "Get out!" I said, my voice steady but cold. "Get out? Get out?" He laughed, bitter and mocking. "This is what you've become? Ditching your own family? You used me," I said, leaning against the counter, towel still in hand. "There's a difference." Dad stepped closer, fists clenched. "You ungrateful little snake. Try it." The words came out calm, deliberate. A dare. His hand shook, but he didn't swing. We both knew he wasn't a fighter. He was a loudmouth who hid behind threats, too scared to face his own weakness. "What did you do?" Mom's voice cracked. "The cards are dead. Lindsay can't pay her bills. The house payment, it's all gone." "Exactly," I nodded. "Everything I handled. Everything I paid for. It's done." Dad's laugh was hollow. "You think you're some big shot? You think we need you?" "Looks like you do," I said, shrugging. "Since you broke into my home to beg." "Beg?" he spat. "You think we're begging?" Enough. My voice cut through his rant, sharp and final. "I'm done." Mom stepped forward, hands trembling. "Please, this is your family. We're all you have." "All you have," I corrected. "I'm done being your ATM, your servant, your punching bag." Dad's face contorted. "You little..." I raised a hand. "Get out, now." "You can't do this," Mom whispered, tears spilling. "This is heartless." "Heartless?" I laughed, the sound bitter. "Heartless is calling your son worthless while spending his money. Heartless is using me and laughing in my face." Dad lunged forward, but I didn't move. He stopped, his bravado crumbling. "You'll regret this," he muttered. "You'll come crawling back." "I won't," I said, my voice like stone. They left, the door slamming behind them. But I knew this wasn't the end. The next day, they tried a new approach. Lindsay showed up at my workplace. I saw her through the office window, face pale, eyes red from crying. My boss looked uneasy as she waved frantically at me. I stayed at my desk. "Sir, there's a woman here," the receptionist said. "She's nobody," I replied, eyes on my screen. She didn't leave. I saw her arguing with the receptionist, her voice rising, hands shaking. Security stepped in, escorting her out. I knew she'd try again. That night my landlord knocked. "There's a situation," he said, shifting nervously. "Your family's downstairs causing a scene." "Tell them to leave or I'll call the cops," I said. He blinked. "But they're your family." "No," I corrected. "Not anymore." I watched from my window as they shouted and flailed until security dragged them away. But I knew them. I knew they'd keep trying. And I knew, back at their house, that black duffel bag was waiting for them to open it, to see how far I'd go. The silence didn't hold. I knew them too well. Silence was just the pause before the next outburst. For days, I ignored their calls, their texts, their frantic voicemails. I even took time off work, savoring the quiet. But I wasn't naive. I knew they wouldn't quit. It started with Lindsay's rants, messages dripping with venom, blaming me for their chaos. Mom's tearful voicemails came next, begging me to be the bigger person, to save them. Then Dad. At first it was fury, threats, insults, the usual noise. But then his tone shifted. Calm, calculated, an invitation. Son, let's settle this like adults. No games, just us. There's a game this weekend. Our team's playing. Come, we'll talk. A trap. I felt it in my gut. But I agreed. I wanted this. So I went. But when I saw the empty seats around him and the black duffel bag clutched in his hands, I knew I was right. They didn't want peace. They wanted control. But I wasn't the same fool who stood in their living room, nodding and pretending. Not anymore. The stadium roared, a chaotic pulse of cheers and stomping feet, a perfect place for secrets to vanish. Dad was waiting in section 12, row F, the seats around him empty despite the packed game. He spotted me, waving with one hand, the other gripping the black duffel. My duffel. I walked down the steps, each step deliberate, my eyes fixed on him. He looked eager. Within minutes, she called. I let it go to voicemail. She called again, then my mom, then my dad. By the time I locked up the shop, I had 14 missed calls. The next day, I woke to a flood of frantic texts. Sis, what do you mean you're not paying? The cake's already ordered. You can't just bail. We're counting on you. Mom. Honey, don't be spiteful. It's just a mix-up. Let's talk. Dad. We raised you better than this. I stared at my phone, shaking my head. Not one apology, not one, I'm sorry we hurt you. Just demands. Just the assumption I'd keep playing my part. I called my sister. She answered instantly. Oh my God, finally. Look, I don't know what's wrong with you, but you're acting insane. You already agreed to pay, so... I changed my mind. I cut in. Silence. What? I changed my mind, I repeated, slow and clear. I'm not paying another cent. You're on your own. Are you serious? She shrieked. You're really going to screw me over like this? I laughed. Screw you over? You mean like how you left me off the guest list because I don't fit your vibe? Or how you and Mom talked about me like I'm an embarrassment? That kind of screwing over? She huffed. It's not the same. That was about appearances. I didn't mean it like that. But this is real money. Real responsibility. And it's not my problem, I said calmly. You didn't want me at your wedding? Fine. But you don't get my money while acting like I don't exist. You made your choice and I'm making mine. Don't be so dramatic, she snapped. You're just mad about the invite. Grow up. I exhaled. You think I'm upset about the invitation? That's not it. It's that you used me, treated me like a cash machine and still had the gall to look down on me. That's what gets me. Oh, please, she scoffed. You've got plenty of money. You wouldn't even miss it. And there it was. Pure, shameless greed. You're right, I said, my voice icy. I've got plenty, and none of it's going to you ever again. Wait, she started, but I hung up. Done. She didn't reach out for the rest of the week, but my parents wouldn't let it go. By Saturday, the guilt trips were relentless. Your sister's so stressed, my mom whined. Can't you just do this one thing? It's already planned. What's a few grand to you? My dad added. Family helps family, my mom kept repeating, like it meant something. But I'd had enough. Family helps family, I finally said. Funny. I don't recall any of you helping me when I was building my business, working 16-hour days, to afford everything on my own, or when I paid for half her wedding and still got treated like dirt. Silence. You figure it out, I said. I'm done. I hung up and blocked their numbers. Let them sweat. I expected noise, pleading, maybe veiled threats about how I'd regret it or how I was selfish. But for 2 days, nothing. That's when I knew they weren't mad. They were panicking, scrambling to replace the money I'd pulled, realizing they couldn't count on me anymore. On the third day, my mom showed up at my shop. No heads up, just strutted in, eyes scanning the cars and my crew working smoothly. I wiped my hands on a rag and crossed my arms. Something up? We need to talk, she said, her voice clipped. I motioned to the office. Go ahead. She sat across from my desk, hands clasped, looking out of place, like she'd rather be anywhere else. I took my time sitting down, letting her stew. Your sister's in a bind, she said finally. I raised an eyebrow. "Oh, don't play dumb," she snapped. "I don't know anything," I said, leaning back. "But I bet you're about to tell me." She huffed, exasperated. "The bakery won't release the cake without payment. The venue's threatening to cancel unless she clears the balance, and she hasn't paid the florist yet." I stayed silent. "The wedding's in 2 weeks and she can't cover it," my mom pressed. "That's rough," I said. She blinked, like she couldn't believe I wasn't jumping to fix it. "You have the money," she said, talking to me like I was a kid. "You could help, and it wouldn't even dent you." I gave a slow smile. "And yet, here we are." Her eyes narrowed. "Stop being petty. You agreed to pay, and she planned around that. You can't just back out now." "Funny," I said. "Like how she planned her guest list without me. Works both ways." "It's not the same," she insisted. "Sure it is," I shot back. "She wanted a wedding without me. Cool. That means she doesn't need my cash either." "For God's sake," my mom muttered, rubbing her forehead. I waited for the usual. Guilt, lectures about family, how I shouldn't hold grudges. Instead, she straightened up. "If you don't help, she'll have to scale everything back. She'll be humiliated. People will talk." I laughed. "Now, we're getting to the real issue." Her face tightened. "It's not just about looks," she said stiffly. "She deserves a perfect wedding." "She deserves what she can pay for," I corrected. "And clearly that's not the wedding she planned." Her lips thinned. "So that's it? You're just going to let your sister crash and burn?" "She's not crashing," I said flatly. "She's getting a wake-up call, long overdue." My mom stared at me, unreadable, then stood, smoothed her shirt, and adjusted her purse. "You'll regret this," she said quietly. I shrugged. "Maybe." She left without another word, and I felt only relief. Over the next few days, my sister's perfect wedding started unraveling. First, a cryptic Facebook post. "It's tough when people you rely on let you down. Life, right?" I ignored it. Then a cousin called. "Yo, what's the deal? Your sister's losing it. Says you ditched paying for the wedding." "Yep," I said. "Why?" "She didn't invite me," I replied simply. A pause. "Oh, yeah. Okay, I get it." The next day, my sister texted, "Can we talk?" I waited an hour before replying. "About what?" "I don't want things like this between us. Coffee?" I almost laughed. She didn't want things like this because it was inconvenient for her. But I was curious, so I agreed. At the coffee shop, she was already there, fidgeting with her cup. She gave a weak smile. "Hey." "Hey," I said, sitting down. She sighed dramatically. "Look, I know you're upset." "I'm not upset," I cut in. "I just see things clearly now." She frowned. "What's that mean?" "It means I'm useful when you need something. But the second I don't fit your perfect world, I'm out." "That's not fair," she protested. "Isn't it?" I leaned back. "You didn't think I was good enough for your wedding. But my money was, you can't have both." She pursed her lips. "I just wanted everything perfect. And I didn't think you'd care." "Now you know," I said. She hesitated. "If I invite you now, will you help?" I smiled, stood up. "Enjoy your wedding, sis. Figure it out without me." And I left. The morning of her wedding, I woke up feeling free. No stress, no guilt, no responsibilities. For the first time in years, I wasn't weighed down by their expectations. No one was calling me to fix last-minute disasters or begging for cash to save the day. Because I wasn't invited. And because I'd finally stopped caring. But my family hadn't stopped caring about my wallet. At 11:19 a.m., my mom called. I ignored it. At 11:36 a.m., my dad tried, ignored. At 12:08 p.m., a text from my cousin. "Bro, you won't believe this. The venue just shut them out." I stared at the screen and laughed. The catastrophe. I'd warned them. I'd given them every chance to sort it out. But my sister assumed someone would swoop in. No one did. Without the final payment, the venue canceled. Staff locked the doors as guests arrived in suits and dresses. bewildered, while the planners scrambled to explain. My sister? Hysterical. The lavish cake? Never delivered. The fancy flowers? Cancelled. The glamorous wedding she'd bragged about for months? Gone. At 1:12 p.m., she called me. I answered. What? I said flatly. Are you happy now? She screamed. I leaned back, amused. About what? You know what? She snapped. The wedding's ruined. Oh, I said casually. Didn't have the money? You knew we didn't, she yelled. You were supposed to help. You promised, I chuckled. No, you assumed. Silence. You let me fail, she whispered, voice breaking. No, I corrected. You failed all by yourself. Then she cracked. I don't understand, she said softly. Why couldn't you just help? After everything we've been through. Everything you've done? I repeated, my patience gone. You mean using me for years? Taking my money without a thought? Treating me like trash when I wasn't useful? I didn't mean it like that, she mumbled. You never do, I said coldly. That's the problem. Silence. So this is it? She asked, voice shaky. You're just done? I was done a while ago, I said. You just didn't see it. I hung up. The wedding was moved to a relative's backyard last minute. No fancy decor, no gourmet food. Just a thrown-together setup. I heard my sister spent the night fighting tears, too embarrassed to enjoy it. I didn't reach out. I didn't apologize. I didn't check in. I let them handle it for once, and for the first time, I felt liberated. A year later, it took months for my parents to accept I wasn't budging. At first, they tried guilt, then anger, then silence. Now they tread carefully, like they know one wrong move could make me cut them off for good. My sister, no apology, but no more requests for money either. I call that a victory. Me, still running my shop, still thriving, and every dollar I make, it's mine.